The significance of the Sabbath day explained. Jeremiah chapter 17, verses 24 to 25 and 27. Hey everyone, welcome back. How many of you feel like you're constantly running on empty? The demands of life, work, family, responsibilities can feel relentless. Today, I want to share a timeless truth from Jeremiah chapter 17, verses 24 to 25 and 27. A passage that speaks directly to our need for rest and connection with God in the midst of our busy lives. It's about something God calls the Sabbath, and it's far more than just a day off. Today, we're going to explore a foundational principle woven into the very fabric of creation: the Sabbath. This isn't just a human invention, it's a divine rhythm, a loving reminder from God Himself about the importance of ceasing our labors and turning our hearts towards Him. We're going to delve into Jeremiah 17:24 through 25 and 27, a powerful passage that reveals God's deep intention and the profound significance He places on this set-apart time. From the very beginning, after the work of creation was complete, God Himself rested. Genesis 2:2-3, establishing a pattern for humanity. The Sabbath, therefore, isn't an afterthought. It's an integral part of God's design for our well-being, a weekly invitation to reflect His nature and prioritize our relationship with Him. Let's unpack this crucial truth together and discover how it speaks to our lives today. Let's look at what God says. "And it shall come to pass, if ye diligently hearken unto me, saith the Lord, to bring in no burden through the gates of this city on the Sabbath day, but hallow the Sabbath day, to do no work therein. Then shall there enter into the gates of this city kings and princes sitting upon the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses, they and their princes, the men of Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and this city shall remain forever." Now, we might not be bringing physical burdens through city gates today, but think about the burdens we carry. For example, the weight of deadlines, the stress of finances, the emotional baggage. God's call to do no work on the Sabbath isn't just about physical inactivity. It's about intentionally laying down those burdens, resting from the work of our hands to find our rest in Him. He says to keep the Sabbath day holy, to set it apart. In our week, what time do we truly dedicate to God, undistracted? This isn't about legalistic rules, but about recognizing our need to intentionally connect with the One who gives us strength and purpose. Just as God promised stability and blessing to those who honored the Sabbath then, there's a deep sense of peace and renewal that comes when we prioritize Him in our week. The word holy signifies something set apart for God. The Sabbath, in God's eyes, is a designated time to intentionally focus on Him, to cease from our regular labors and dedicate ourselves to spiritual refreshment and connection. Notice the if. God lays out a clear condition for blessing. Obedience to His Sabbath command wasn't just about taking a break. It was a demonstration of their commitment to Him. And the reward? Stability, continued leadership, and a thriving city. God desires to bless us, and this passage reveals that honoring His designated time for rest and holiness is a key to unlocking that blessing in our lives today. Are we diligently obeying His call to set aside time for Him? 1. The principle of setting aside time for God. Then, the specific command was to abstain from commerce and labor on the seventh day. This physically set the day apart. Now, while Christians have varying views on which day, Saturday or Sunday, or how strictly to observe a Sabbath, the underlying principle remains vital. We are called to intentionally set aside time, regularly, to focus on God, rest, and spiritual renewal. In our busy 24/7 culture, this intentional pause is crucial for our spiritual health. It's about prioritizing our relationship with God over the demands of work and the world. 2. Obedience and blessing. Then, obedience to the Sabbath command was directly linked to national blessing, stability, and a flourishing relationship with God, symbolized by the continuation of the Davidic line and temple worship. Now, while the specific national promises to Judah are not directly applicable, the principle of obedience leading to spiritual blessing remains. When we prioritize God and His ways, including taking time for rest and spiritual focus, we position ourselves to receive His favor and experience deeper spiritual life. Third, warning against disobedience and its consequences. Then, disregarding the Sabbath led to the threat of fire and destruction upon Jerusalem, signifying God's judgment for their lack of obedience. Now, while God's judgment might not manifest in the same physical way, consistently ignoring the need for spiritual rest and prioritizing worldly pursuits over God can lead to spiritual burnout, broken relationships, a shallow faith, and a loss of God's peace in our lives. Our cities, our lives, relationships, churches, etc., can suffer if we neglect this vital aspect of our relationship with God. The heart behind the command. Then, the Sabbath was not meant to be a legalistic burden, but an opportunity to honor God and find rest. However, the people seem to have missed the heart of it. Now, we must be careful not to turn any day of rest into a rigid set of rules that miss the point. The core intention is to create space to connect with God, to be refreshed, and to remember our dependence on Him. Whether this is a Saturday, Sunday, or another day, the spirit of rest and devotion is what matters most. 5. A testimony to the world. Then, a Judah that honored the Sabbath and experienced its blessings would have been a testimony to God's faithfulness and the benefits of following Him. Now, when believers today intentionally prioritize rest and spiritual focus, it can be a powerful witness to a world obsessed with productivity and material gain. It demonstrates that there is a different way to live, one that values spiritual well-being and acknowledges God as the ultimate source of life and strength. A more somber note is struck as Jeremiah warns, in verse 27, "But if ye will not hearken unto me to hallow the Sabbath day, and not to bear a burden, even entering at the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, then will I kindle a fire on the gates thereof, and it shall devour the palaces of Jerusalem, and it shall not be quenched." This fire isn't necessarily a literal fire for us today, but it speaks to the consequences of neglecting our spiritual well-being. When we consistently push God to the margins, when we never pause to refuel spiritually, we risk burnout, emptiness, and a disconnect from the very source of our life. Our palaces, our inner peace, our joy, our relationships can be consumed by the flames of relentless striving and neglect. So, what does this mean for us today? While the specific day and practices might vary according to our convictions and traditions, the core principle remains. God values and calls us to a rhythm of rest and intentional connection with Him. He knows we need it. It's not just for His benefit, but for ours. This Sabbath in our modern context could be a Sunday, a Saturday, or any day we intentionally set aside. It's about creating a space where we can rest our bodies and minds, refocus on God through prayer, scripture, and worship, reconnect with loved ones in a relaxed way, remember what truly matters beyond our daily tasks. Friends, I want to encourage you this week to consider your own rhythm. Are you allowing space for God to refresh you? Are you intentionally setting aside time to lay down your burdens and connect with Him? He isn't just giving us a rule, He's offering us a gift. A weekly reset button that leads to deeper peace, renewed strength, and a more vibrant relationship with Him. Let's choose to honor God by honoring His call to rest and holiness. Let's discover the profound blessing that comes when we intentionally make space for Him in our week.